All right, I think our video should be going live. I'm going to make sure we're really truly live before we get started. It does tell me we're live, so I'm going to verify in the various Facebook groups that y'all can see me. If anybody wants to leave a comment, that would be awesome. That way I know that I'm really up there and things are happening and y'all can see what I'm saying. Just checking the Facebook groups. So. Since it tells me we are live, I'm going to go ahead and share my slides, and that way we can talk through those things. Give me just a second here. And again, if anybody wants to say hi in the comments, let me know that you can see me, you can hear me. That would be fabulous. That way I know that it's working because Facebook Lives are sometimes a little dicey when you're linking them through Zoom like I am to share your screen. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh the group and see if I can see myself in our group. There we go. It looks like I can. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to anybody who's joining me today for our presentation. We are talking about marketing a dog training business. I super appreciate you being here, or if you're watching the recording, I'm glad you could do that. I certainly understand that not everybody can always make it at the time that we're offering things live. For anybody who doesn't know me, I'm Melissa Bro. I'm one of the co-owners of Dog Trainers Umbrella, which is kind of the group that runs this group. One of the admins here in the DTU Marketing and Running an R Plus Facebook business group. Some of you may also know me from my work with FDSA, Fancy Dog Sports Academy, where I host their podcast and I host the webinars. I also own a small web design agency where I specialize in creating websites for dog trainers. I've spent more than a decade, it's getting close to two in marketing. And I've done everything from managing marketing for like a small startup to running like a six-figure marketing budget for a mid-sized company. So I'm here today to help you wrap your head around what marketing is and how you can make it really work for you and your dog training business. That said, let's start with our definition. So what is marketing and why does having a definition and knowing what marketing actually is matter in order to do it successfully? So a lot of people think of marketing as things like branding or posting to Facebook, but my definition is that marketing is the process by which we take someone who has never heard about you or your business before and get them all the way to the point where they're ready to buy. So why does that matter? It matters because it means marketing is the entire client experience that happens before a sale, before somebody becomes a customer, from the point where they hear about you for that very first time, or hear about your business, most likely, until the point where they actually hand over their money. And if you engage in marketing to encourage repeat clients, it may even continue past the point when they give you that money. So to put that in dog training terms, we are trying to get our potential clients to perform a behavior chain. In marketing, we talk about that behavior chain in two ways. The first way we talk about it is as a customer journey. A customer journey is a particular process that one customer takes to become a customer. They begin as a random stranger, somebody who has no idea that you exist. Then they begin down a journey, and throughout that journey, they interact with your brand or company. Marketers call each of those interactions a touch point. They go from a random stranger to somebody who knows that you exist, but who you don't know anything about yet. Then, with any luck, you get to know a little bit about them because they call you or they email you or you meet them at an event or maybe they follow you on social media. And from there, hopefully they eventually decide to make a purchase and become a customer. This process, all four of these steps can either be really, really quick, something as fast as a single day, or they can be super, super slow, like months and years later and down the road. I know some businesses that I work with outside of the dog training industry where we're talking literally 18 months average from the point somebody hears about a business to the point where they make a purchase. For a lot of dog trainers, that process looks a lot shorter than that, often under a month, frequently within a week, right? They hear about your business and they have an initial sales conversation with you and decide yes or no, maybe 2 weeks. Those are pretty common sales periods or marketing periods for a dog trainer. So let's talk through an example of what I mean when I'm talking about all this. When I'm talking about a behavior chain, first, people don't usually just wake up one day and decide randomly to hire a dog trainer. Usually there's a reason, right? There's a problem. That is to say, there's something they want to change, or maybe they have a goal that they would like help to achieve. So if you're thinking goals, maybe you're thinking dog sports, right? They want help teaching their dog to do the weave pulls, or they need access to agility equipment to teach all the agility behaviors. Or for nose work, they need somebody to kind of walk them through how to actually introduce an odor for the first time. But more often for your manners clients or things like that, there is something that went wrong or something that was a problem for this person that has gotten to a point where they really want something to change. So for our example, let's pretend that our potential client Sue has just adopted a new dog. And the dog jumps up on her old Aunt Mary, who was super excited to come meet it for the first time, and Aunt Mary gets knocked over. That's a problem for Sue. We want Aunt Mary not to have to go in for new hip surgery. Sue decides that she's going to look into getting help, and that means that she decides she needs to hire a dog trainer. So she doesn't know how to teach her dog not to jump up. She's going to hire a professional to come help her. So she decides to do a search for dog trainer near me, and a bunch of options come up. Your website is fortunately one of the options that does appear when she does the search. It's close enough to the top of the list that Sue clicks on it. She takes a look at what you have to offer. The website's well designed, your content is clear. Sue decides that yes, you could definitely help her solve this problem. You'd be a good choice. That said, she still has a couple of questions, so she fills out a contact form to ask about availability, make sure that you can work with her when she has the time. You respond to her questions, and with any luck, she signs up for some lessons. Now, which of these steps match to which of our customer journey steps? So I've got that customer journey graphic there on the left, and then I've got all of the steps in our process there on the right. I'm going to give you just a second to think about it in your own head, or even if you want to stick it in the comments, feel free. Which of these steps do you feel like she's a random stranger? At which point does she actually get to know that you and your business exist? Like which of these steps does that happen for the first time? At what point would you then know that she exists for the first time? And then at what point does she actually decide to buy? I'm going to give you just a couple of seconds. All right, let's look at the answer here. So if we look at this, we can see that Sue is a random stranger. We don't know that she exists. She doesn't know that we exist. She has no idea what our options are. When her new adopted dog jumps on her Aunt Mary, right? She decides she needs a dog trainer. Again, we have no way of knowing that happened. We don't know anything else about Sue. She doesn't know anything about us at that step. So she's still a random stranger then. When she initially puts in that Google search for a dog trainer near me, she is still a random stranger. But the results for that search is where she learns that you exist for the first time. So at that point, she transitions from a random stranger to that second step in the customer journey, that light blue step, where she now knows that you and your business exist. She visits your website for the first time. She learns a little bit more about you. Again, she's learning more about how you exist, but you probably don't know that she exists unless you have some pretty advanced analytics on your site. You probably don't really have a way of knowing a lot about her at that point. You couldn't choose to go actively market to her unless you were doing like remarketing ads or something like that, but that's a little more complex. She visits your website. You learn that she exists when she contacts you that first time with those questions, right? She sends you an email, she reaches out. That's how you learn that she exists back. And you send her some information, at which point then she signs up for lessons. So we've got that you learn that she exists when she contacts you and when you send her information. And then ultimately that last step that she decides to buy happens after you send her that information when she actually hands over that money. So which of these steps can we influence as business owners, as marketers, can we influence to help get as many people that are like Sue all the way to the bottom of the funnel? So from the top piece here or the bottom of this process, right? So from the top here, can we do anything to make her dog jump on Aunt Mary? We can't. We probably don't want to, right? We don't actually want to go out there and cause problems for our potential clients. We can't help her decide that she needs a dog trainer. I mean, maybe if you've met her, then you can have a conversation about that. But most likely, just because it happened, she decides she needs a dog trainer. All of that's happening before you even know that she's out in the world. And so there's not really anything we can do there. However, when she does that Google search, there are things we can do to encourage your business to come up at the top of the Google search results, right? That's called SEO or search engine optimization. We could also choose to invest in Google AdWords and pay for ads that encourage your business to come up at the top of the search results because ads show first. And so those are two different ways that we could potentially influence that when she does a Google search, she sees your business. And that encourages her to go to your website. That next step, that visits your website for the first time, we control our website design, our website's copywriting. That is a big piece of the puzzle that we can use to then encourage her to reach out and contact us, making sure that that piece of it's doing its part. And then when she contacts you with questions, you control how quick your response time is, how good your answers to her questions are, how patient and kind you come across, right? All of those factors will influence whether or not she ultimately decides to sign up for some lessons with you. So those are the pieces that we can influence. Everything from that second step all the way through to that last step. But that's just Sue's journey. She's one person. You obviously need more than one client to make your business work. Other people, maybe they see a Facebook post that helps them go from random stranger to knowing you exist. Maybe they get a referral from a friend that helps them learn about your business. And then there are going to be people who stray off this path entirely. Maybe they just never learn that you exist. They do that Google search and you don't come up. Or maybe they learn that you exist, but they don't take that next step. So they go to your website and then they leave and they forget about you. Unfortunately, there are going to be a lot more people who could give you money that don't than there will ever be people who successfully complete their customer journey and turn into clients. And so that's why in marketing, in addition to talking about a customer journey, we also talk about marketing funnels. So a marketing funnel takes all of those customer journeys, all those possible paths for somebody to become a client, and we look at them in aggregate. In essence, a marketing funnel looks at how many people are making it from one step to the next. How many random strangers are learning about your business? How many people that learn about your business do you learn exist so that you can actively market to them in the future? Then how many of those people that you know are potential clients actually become actual clients, actually give you their money? Our goal is to get as many people as possible from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel. Where most business owners go wrong is that they don't understand that each piece of your marketing should flow into the next. And that leads them to basically have a leaky funnel. So they don't think about the things that they're doing that help expose random strangers to their business, how those things need to connect to ultimately them collecting those people's contact information or those people kind of moving down the funnel, right? Continuing to progress in their customer journey. When you choose marketing tactics, it's important to think carefully about how you're going to get from each piece of your marketing to the next step in the funnel. Get people one step closer to hiring you. You don't want to put up roadblocks, things that make it harder for somebody who wants to give you their money to actually go ahead and do that. So what are some examples of the types of marketing tactics that we have to choose from? It's quite the list, guys. So this is not an all-inclusive list by any means, but a dog trainer's marketing mix might include these things. So we can do website SEO. We talked a little bit about that, right? Doing things to encourage your website to come up in Google search. You've got a Google business profile. So you can create your Google business profile. You can optimize your Google business profile. You can do things to encourage your Google business profile to rank well. You can blog. Blogging is usually good for SEO. It's also good for fostering engagement with existing clients. It's also good for once people get to your website, encouraging them to come back. You can do some guest blogging. So you can go to somebody else's website and create content, or the organization that you got certified through if they take guest blog posts or articles. You can contribute to those things. Those lead to links back to your website. You can do paid stuff, so Google Ads. We mentioned those earlier. You can participate in Facebook groups, have a Facebook business page, run ads on Facebook, right? All different options right here on Facebook that you can take advantage of. Over on Instagram, you can have an Instagram profile where you post things. You can run Instagram ads. You can try and get some news coverage, so press releases out to your local media. Other places that maybe will give you a backlink, so anywhere really that will link back to your website from their website. That's what they call backlink. Those things are positive for SEO, but they're also positive if there are actually members of your community who are going to read those things and have the option to click on that link. We can do email marketing. So having an email marketing list and emailing people about your class offerings or about your availability on a semi-regular basis. Vet handouts are also an option if you're going to network with local veterinarians. We did do a presentation in this group towards the end of last year specifically about how to build those vet connections. So if you missed that, it might be worth going back and catching it. The recording is also posted over on the Dog Trainers Umbrella website. So if you'd rather not try to search through Facebook for things, which can be difficult, I will try to remember excuse me, guys. I'll try to remember to post a link to that presentation in the comments of this one for anybody who wants to look at that a little more closely. I think it's a really valuable option for most trainers. You can network with other pet businesses. So that's going to be groomers. That's going to be other trainers. If you do behavior cases, sometimes trainers who don't take behavior cases are going to be your best source of clients. That's going to be, again, vets. That's going to be kind of anybody who's in the pet profession who maybe doesn't offer training and might do some things that are complementary. You can network with other businesses outside of the pet industry. My favorite two examples here are real estate agents and fence builders. So if people install fences, it's usually they know whether or not their clients have dogs. They may or may not be happy to drop off your business card in the process. If they are real estate agents, your real estate agents typically do know if the families that they're helping find homes have dogs or not. What a great idea to give them an occasional batch of treats with a business card attached that they can leave as a welcome present for their person when they move into their new home, right? Just little things that you can do, little networking bits that you can do. And real estate agents are, in my experience, super excited to network with anybody and everybody. So certainly a thing you could take advantage of. You can train in public. If you're going to do that, I do recommend carrying business cards and wearing logoed gear. But when I used to train in public, I frequently had people come up to me and ask, hey, are you a professional trainer? Are you somebody who could help me with XYZ dog problem? You can do public relations. So that's going to be your press release, things like that to local media. There's the Nextdoor app, which is a community-based social media platform. You can do leave behind, so things like door hangers or things in mailboxes. Mailers, your local post office will often offer options for stuffing things in mailboxes. So if there are particular neighborhoods that you like to work in or you know that are a good fit for your services, that's a thing to consider. They're usually not particularly expensive. Building up some sort of referral network from past clients. Maybe you want to incentivize that, maybe you don't. Either way, it's certainly an option. Doing text messaging, so having a list of phone numbers that you can text message people about. That has varying levels of success, but it's certainly an option that is out there for you. You can do videos like YouTube or Reels on Facebook or TikTok or any of those options, just video content that you put out to market your business. There's Groupon is still around and kicking. You could certainly try a Groupon option. There are interviews that you can get out there and do on your local news channel, or you can do video interviews if there's like somebody out there creating video content and you don't want to create your own. Can you get on somebody else's YouTube channel and just be interviewed by them, or a podcast interview, right? And there's things like local magazine ads and those pieces. So these are all just ideas. Not all of them are ideas I necessarily recommend for every business. And not all of them really work well for all pieces of the funnel, right? So some of these work best when they're used for a particular step in your customer journey, while other tactics span several steps of the journey and maybe have other requirements besides, right? So email marketing, for example, works really well for folks who are in that yellow phase. So that point where they know that you exist and you know that they exist, you've collected their email address. Now you're going to intentionally stay in touch and make them aware of things that you have on offer, right? That is what email marketing is good at. You're not going to meet a random stranger via email marketing, almost never, right? Compare that to something like Facebook, where you can do things to meet new random strangers. You can create content that's intentionally meant to be shared by people who follow you, and that gets shared to all of their friends. And so all of their friends are random strangers who then learn that your business exists. But if you're going to do Facebook, you also need to play Facebook's games, right? So that you get shown to the people who follow you. And Facebook likes to show your content to people only if they believe that your content is valuable. And how do you show Facebook that your content is valuable? You need to encourage engagement, things like comments, likes, and shares. So if people aren't interacting with your comment on Facebook, Facebook's going to show that content to fewer people because it thinks it is lower value content. So there's some things there to know that make Facebook a little more complex. But you can absolutely get them to meet random strangers. You could absolutely help people who know that you exist. You can learn that they exist if they follow you, if they comment, if you're interacting with them on social media. And as long as you're getting good engagement, when you post, hopefully a fair number of those people will also be seeing that content so you can actively market to them. Each business is going to have its own mix of things that work best. So depending on the types of marketing that you're most interested in doing and which things are kind of where your target customers tend to spend the most of their time. That last bit varies more than you might think, kind of based on age, based on where they live, based on even the types of dogs or the types of activities they're interested in. I have a good friend who's a dog trainer who finds she's also a rock climber, as am I, and she finds a lot of her clients have done rock climbing. And so that's kind of an interesting thing to think about, right? Is there an opportunity to market there? So it's worth thinking about where your clients hang out, either with or without their dogs, and how you can network in those places. When Jamie and Michael used to be super involved with the group, they talked about how much they did some networking through Jamie's mom's gymnastics studio because a lot of the families had dogs, and so they could talk to those families about their dogs and offer their services. So just looking for kind of those unique opportunities to get your business known by people who didn't know it was out there. Now, for some businesses, the most important thing is just to get people at the bottom of the funnel. If you're trying to increase your number of clients, if you feel like you don't have enough money coming in, those are the things that I would focus on. However, once you've got a funnel in place, once you have some new customers flowing into your business, then it becomes worth it to spend some time thinking about the type of customer that you ultimately want to be bringing in. Knowing what your ideal client looks like can really help you choose what marketing tactics you want to spend the most time on and what kind of marketing message you want to be putting out into the world. So let's look at some examples to kind of talk through this. To help figure out what traits your ideal clients have in common, I want you to spend just a minute and think about your 3 favorite clients. Most likely when I said favorite clients, at least one jumped to mind. I know for most of us it does. I've included some questions here on the slide to get you started, but you may also want to jot down other notes or things that you know about them. So the questions on the slide, what do you like about working with them? Where did they find you if you know that? Where might you find other people like them? And just kind of think through any other traits that maybe you can about what those favorite clients have in common. So are they all young professionals? Are they all empty nesters? Are they families with kids? Are they all well off, middle class? Do they all live in one part of town? Are we talking about similarly aged dogs? Do you really like working with adolescents? Similar types of dogs. Maybe you really enjoy bully breeds. Maybe you really enjoy German Shepherds and some of those drive-year sports dogs. All of those types of things are things I would consider. Do they have similar problems that they wanted your help with? So do you find that actually when you sit down and think about your 3 favorite clients, they all had separation anxiety dogs. You hadn't maybe realized that that was a thing that you really enjoyed working with, right? So we're just trying to look for commonalities amongst our 3 favorite clients to baby target things that would make us really happy if we had more clients just like them. And then these things can help you determine what types of marketing to do and what to include in your marketing. So to walk through my business, for example, 3 favorite clients. One of them, FDSA instructor, super easy to work with, pays quickly, always on time, has lots of great pictures of her and her dogs. That's client 1. Client 2 is super enthusiastic about working with me, super invested and appreciative of the work, found me via referral from a previous client. And client 3 pays well, always takes my advice, super willing to consider things that I have to say that are even outside the box or push back a little bit. Needs help on a reoccurring basis, so there's some reoccurring revenue there, interested in a range of different services, including consulting. So when I look at those things, I might take away from that, well, can I work with any of the other FDSA instructors, which I have? Can I do other things to increase referrals? I met client 3 on Twitter. Is that a channel that maybe I want to invest some more time on? So kind of pulling those pieces apart, looking at what aspects of those things might help me look for other clients like these clients. And I might want to consider when I'm bringing on new clients, do they have good pictures? Are they open to my feedback? How quickly are they paying their deposit, right? Those aspects maybe help inform whether or not this client is going to be awesome or whether they're going to need a little more work to make the project go smoothly. I can also look at things like the type of work. Were the projects that I enjoyed website design? Were they consulting? Were they writing? Things like that. So essentially, we want to look at all of those bits and pieces about our favorite client, about the tactics that we talked about the steps in the customer journey, about the marketing funnel. I'm going to take all of that stuff that we've been talking about, and we want to turn it into a marketing plan for your business. How do we do that? When taking all of this and turning it into a plan for your business, that does not mean you need to go out and do everything on that previous slide full of marketing ideas. I think that's the single biggest mistake that dog trainers make. They look at that big list of ideas and they go, oh, I could try this and I could try that and I could try that. Please don't do all of the things. You'll be so burnt out. You'll be totally exhausted. You'll have no time left to do anything else. Instead, we want to carefully choose a few things that ensure that you're covering each of the steps of the marketing funnel. And then you want to do those things for a few months. At the end of each month, kind of looking over how things are working. If there are tactics that are bringing in a ton of clients, considering whether it's possible to scale them for better results. If there are things you don't think are working at all, consider tweaking your approach or replacing that tactic with another that covers the same steps in the funnel. Again, we want to make sure you don't create a leak in your funnel. We want to have pieces that help with every step in the funnel. But we don't necessarily need any particular tactic to do that job, right? We can always swap a tactic out for another option if something is not working the way that we would like it to be. If you're trying to decide which tactics to consider, first thing I would do is look at what has worked for you in the past. So where have most of your clients come from if you have that historic data? If you don't have historic data, look at your list of recent clients. For most dog trainers, they don't work with, hundreds of clients a month. So sit down with the clients that you worked with a list of the clients that you've worked with in the last month or the last 2 months, maybe even the last 3 months, depending on how many people are talking about here and how much time you're willing to spend on this. And ask yourself, where did each one come from? How did they reach out? What did that initial email look like? And pull those things apart a little bit. The other thing that you can do is you can look at what has worked for other businesses like yours. So other small businesses, other local businesses, other pet businesses. For trainers who just have no idea where to start, they haven't been doing much marketing, and they want to kind of move the meter relatively quickly. These days, the single biggest thing I'm recommending is getting a Google business profile up and filled out really comprehensively. I've got some articles over on my website that are about that if you need help with that. And getting your website up to snuff. So those two pieces will really make a big difference in terms of search. And then if you have, then you kind of need to evaluate, do you have more money or more time? And if you have more money than time, we're going to talk about ads. We're going to look at Facebook ads or Google ads and see if those can move the meter for your business. If you have more time than money, then we're probably going to talk about spending some time in some local Facebook groups, because local Facebook groups can really make a big difference if you're showing up consistently and contributing in a good way. I think a lot of people think that a marketing plan needs to be long or big or complicated. It doesn't. You need a goal. You need to pick a few marketing options that you're willing to try to help you reach that goal. And you need to make sure that each step of the funnel is covered in what we're talking about. So in the tactics that you choose. All right, I mentioned the word goal in there. What do I mean when I say we need a goal? How do we set up a marketing goal? Really, we're going to ask one question, which is how many customers do you need? Our goal will be to bring in the number of customers we need to make the amount of money that you want to be making through your business. To determine how much money you need to be making, you need to answer these questions in order. First, what do you need to make each month? So look at what you want to pay yourself and see what your business expenses are each month. Add a bit more to cover profit and taxes. We're going to talk about profit first in just a second here, just to help give you some numbers around some of that. But so that's the first question you need to answer is what do you need to make each month? Then how much do you charge per client? We're going to take what you need to make. We're going to divide it by how much you charge per client. And that'll give us an idea of how many clients you need each month to make what you need to make. Then we're going to look at how many clients does that mean you need to bring in and basically figure out from our marketing, okay, how many sales calls does that mean that we need to have that many clients close so that we're making the money that we want to make, right? So how do we do all that? Before we get too much into the math, I just want to talk about profit first for a second. So as a quick aside, as a business owner, if you're not sure how much you should be paying yourself or how to budget for things like taxes and business expenses, I do recommend the book Profit First. It walks you through creating a budget so you can run a profitable business. Essentially what it says is that, I'm going to walk you through this chart a little bit. So it has real revenue, which is 100% of the money that your business makes. Should that divide out in each of the following categories? So profit, to make sure your business is profitable. Owner's compensation, that's the amount that you are personally paying yourself. Tax, so you're setting enough money aside to cover that tax bill from your revenue, right? So this is a little bit different than what you typically see When you talk to your bookkeeper or your accountant about setting money aside for taxes, they usually look at profit minus expenses to then, I'm sorry, revenue minus expenses to then figure out profit, and then you pay tax on profit. It's a little bit different formula, but they're talking about how much money should you be setting aside just based on what you're making, and they recommend 15%. And then operating expenses, those are all the other expenses for your business. And so, according to Profit First, a business that's making less than $250,000 a year, which still is most dog trainers in my experience, there are some certainly who are in that next category, but most dog trainers are making under $250,000 a year. We're going to make sure that your revenue goal is to make twice what you want to pay yourself. So if you need to pay yourself $30,000 a year, you really want your business to be making at least 60. If you need to pay yourself 60, you really want your business to be making at least 120. Because your owner comp should be about 50% of your business's total revenue. And all of these other numbers work the same way. So if your business is making 100 grand, roughly 30,000 of that over the course of the year could be operating expenses. Roughly 15% of that, so it'd be 15,000, would be set aside for taxes, right? All of those bits and pieces. Now, in a low expense business, you may find that you need to adjust some of these things, increase the amount you're setting aside for taxes, decrease the amount that you're setting aside for operating expenses, things like that. But it gives you a starting point for the first, year or two of your budgeting, and then you can adjust those percentages based on what you see from your actual bookkeeping. All right, all of this is just to help you understand a little bit of the business side of the financial revenue goal piece so that we can figure out our goal for our marketing. Then we can talk about which aspects of your marketing are actually working for your business. So back to some math. Our goal with our marketing is always, always, always to create a money machine. What I mean by that is we want a positive return on investment, ROI. For each dollar we spend on marketing, we want to make at least two in return, and usually more than two. We'll talk about that again in a second. We can look at that both on a high level, as in for all the money that you spent on marketing, did you make that back in new clients? And we can look at it on a per marketing tactic level to determine which marketing techniques are actually performing best for your business right now. So let's take a little bit deeper look at that. So let's say that I spend $30 to promote a before and after video on loose leash walking with the goal of getting people to sign up for a loose leash walking class that I'm offering. So let's say their Facebook ad. And I'm spending $30 on a Facebook ad with a before and after video in it. Facebook tells me that 600 people saw the ad. 60 of those watched the video. Of the 60 people who watched the video, 30 of them clicked through to my website to learn about the class. Of those 30, 3 people actually signed up for the class. So I spent $30. I got 3 new clients. These numbers are entirely chosen to make the math easy. They're not necessarily realistic. They're really just chosen so we can do a little bit of mental math without going too crazy here. So we're going to keep that number in the back of your head, and we're going to calculate the customer acquisition cost for those 3 clients. So in order to calculate that, we're going to look at the amount we spent on marketing, and we're going to divide it by the number of new customers we got, and that's going to give us our customer acquisition cost. So $30 spent divided by 3 new clients gives us a customer acquisition cost of $10 per client. It cost us $10 to acquire a new client. But is that good? Is that bad? How do we tell? Really, there are 2 additional things we need to consider in order to answer whether that's good or bad. First, we want to make sure it's not costing you more to acquire a customer than you're going to make from that customer. So we'll look at that next so that you can figure out how much you're making from any one customer in your business. Then we need to know how that compares to other marketing tactics. That is, we need to go through the math for multiple tactics, and we need to compare them. So keeping in mind that clients interact with like multiple marketing touch points throughout their journey. That means that the math's not going to be 100% perfect, but it's good enough to give us an idea, right? It's good enough to give us some stats so we can make some decisions around. And for steps earlier in the marketing funnel, there's other stuff that we can look at to kind of figure out if they're also doing their job. We're going to set that aside for now. So we're looking at the pieces that you spend money directly in an effort to get clients out the bottom. So how do we figure out whether it's costing you more to acquire a customer than you make from them? That means calculating out our profit margin per client. So to do that, you're going to look at your income minus all of your non-marketing expenses. So we're taking marketing related things out of your expenses in this case, because we're trying to compare our marketing expenses to stuff. So we're just temporarily removing those from this equation. And then we divide that by the number of clients it accounts for. That will give you profit per client. As a side note, when figuring this out, I only look at what it costs to acquire clients based on their first purchase. I'm not looking at how much money they're going to spend with you over the entire lifetime of their dog or the entire lifetime that they're a client with you. If we want to get super fancy, we could look at that. It's called customer lifetime value, but that math gets really complicated. And I think for most dog trainers, if you keep the cost to acquire a client under the profit you make from that first purchase, you're sure to be in good financial shape. So I'm not going to kind of go down that deep dive or get that far into the weeds unless there's a really good reason to. Back to the math. So first we determine your income. So if you're offering 5 classes a week, each with 6 students, then we can say that we have 30 students. If we charge $100 for a month-long class, then we're making $3,000 in income. Next, we're going to determine our expenses. So we add up rent, utilities, insurance, supplies, things like treats, toys, toilet paper, paper towels, anything else you buy for your classes on a monthly basis. So let's say we have about $1,500 in expenses each month, not including our marketing expenses. Then we need to determine, I think that's supposed to say divide. We need to divide by the total number of clients. So we've already determined we have 30 clients. So now we want to divide our overall profits. I think I skipped a step here. All right. So we're going to take $3,000 in income. We're going to subtract out our expenses, that $1,500. You can see over here on the calculator that that gives us $1,500 in profit. Then we need to determine the total number of clients. We looked at that earlier. So we have 30 clients. We're going to take that $1,500. We're going to divide it by 30 clients. And that means that we get 50. So that means that we make $50 for each of those 30 clients in profit. Once we know that, if our customer acquisition cost was $10 a client, is $10 less or more than 50, right? So it's less than 50, obviously. So at a minimum, if we're spending $10 to acquire a client, we are bringing in profitable clients. We would still have $40 left over of profit per client that it brought us. So if it brought us those 3 clients, I don't know why I make myself do math on a live presentation, but 3 times 40, right? That would be our profit from those clients. We can also, like I said earlier, compare this one type of marketing against other types of marketing. So again, is $10 good? Is $10 bad? Is that a good amount of profit to be making per client? We don't really know unless we compare it with our other options. So let's say their first option here is the option that we walked through earlier in the example. So we spend $30 on a Facebook ad. We get 3 new clients. We have a customer acquisition cost of $10 per client. We also do a live event. So we're going to go to a event at the local vet school, and we're going to have a tent, and we're going to try and meet people. It costs us $300 to have that booth. We get 2 new clients out of it. So we spent $300. We got 2 new clients. That means our customer acquisition cost there is $150 a client. We also spend some money on networking. So we decide to do a lunch and learn at a local veterinary practice, and we spend $50 on a little bit of dessert to kind of bring with us to hand out. Over the next month, the vets recommend us 10 new clients. So we take that $50 we spent, we divide it by 10 new clients, and that gives us a customer acquisition cost of $5 a client. So when we're comparing those 3 things, even though, the thing that cost us the least money here was the Facebook ad, right? If we just look at how much money we spent, and the thing that got us the most clients was networking, the thing that ultimately has the best customer acquisition cost is that networking option. So in this case, like I said, that's also the option that brought in the most new clients, but it's not always going to work out that way. I chose numbers in this case that just made the math easy, but in real life, sometimes the thing that brought in the most clients is actually going to have a higher customer acquisition higher customer acquisition cost than another tactic. And you're going to have to decide if the cheaper tactic is something that you might be able to scale to decrease your overall marketing budget. We also want to be careful not to just go on what costs the least overall. Like I mentioned, the networking costs $50, or the Facebook ad only costs $30. But networking has a lower customer acquisition cost because it brought in more clients. It's important to actually do the math and not just compare, how much you spent or how many clients a tactic brought in. You really want to know how much it costs per client and whether that amount is more or less than the amount of profit you make from those clients. So if it only costs us $5 to bring in new clients, um, and we make $50 per client, that's a pretty dang good deal, right? Let's see if we can get a couple more bets that we can do lunch and learns at. Let's see if that result is replicable and scalable. If not, maybe we are going to look at something like Facebook to kind of plug some of those gaps. So if we can only find 2 or 3 vet clinics and that doesn't do enough marketing to fill our roster, then we're going to look at some of these other options too, even though we know that they have a slightly higher customer acquisition cost. Because ultimately, it's about, as long as they're still bringing in profitable clients, it's about figuring out the marketing mix that's going to get you to your goals, right? It's going to let you make the revenue you need to make for your business. If we want to get extra fancy, we can also do that same type of math within the same marketing tactic. So for example, if you run 2 different Facebook ads, we could look at the customer acquisition cost per ad. Or we can do things like reverse our math and determine how much we need to spend to achieve our marketing goal. So if we need to acquire 10 new clients and to acquire one client, we need to spend $100, or I'm sorry, we need to spend $10 on a Facebook ad. That if the ad works at scale, if it's something that continues to acquire clients at the same level as we invest more money, then we would need to spend $100 on the ad to bring in 10 clients. And most of the time, there's a tipping point at which things stop working at scale. So things only work at scale for so long. And then we see they start to fade off in terms of results. But you really want to kind of find that perfect point where, if you get lucky, you may be able to invest money and just hit your revenue goal just with that tactic, right? Other times you'll find you invest more money, you're still getting more clients from it. You invest more money, you're still getting more clients from it. You hit a point where when you invest more money, you're actually not still getting more clients. You've kind of hit market saturation with that tactic at that point. And we need to bring in a different tactic to continue to bring in new clients so that ultimately you can hit your goals. All right. That is what I had planned for you guys today around marketing. If anybody has questions, I don't think we've had a lot of comments come in yet, so I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes to stick stuff in the comments in case you do have questions. While you do that, if you want more in-depth content on topics like this, DTU does offer our Trainers Growth Group, which is our paid coaching community. You can buy that either on its own or you can get 3 months free when you purchase our course, The Blueprint to a Six-Figure Dog Training Business. That's currently available by going to dogtrainersumbrella.com. If you're just looking for free stuff, totally fine. We're happy to have you. You can also go to dogtrainersumbrella.com and sign up for our email list. That's where we don't send out a ton of things, but we send out information a couple times a month with a new article or new information on running a dog training business, often on marketing related stuff. That's also the best place to go if you want to be notified when we add recordings of things like this to our website. Facebook now takes these recordings down. I think it's after 90 days or something like that. And so we also download them and upload them to YouTube and then put them up on our website. So that if you want to catch those recordings later, you can just by being on our email list or just by going over to the website. It just makes it easier to find them again later too. If you're interested in working with me specifically, either on a new website or on some marketing consulting, you can find me at clickandrepeat.com, or you can always shoot me an email, melissa@clickandrepeat.com. And I do offer a full 6-week self-study class on this stuff over at Fenzi Dog Sports Academy. So if you just want to do some self-study, you don't really want to talk to anybody, that's fine too. I do have that option available. All right, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to hang tight for a few minutes and see if we get some questions. I am more than happy to talk off the cuff or answer specific questions about your business if you have them. Just let me know. All right, let me hop over to a spot in the platform where I can actually see what questions are maybe coming in. All right, we did hit some questions. So Carmen had asked, can we watch a replay of this? The answer to that is absolutely yes. We will have a replay up. The recording will post here to the Facebook group first and foremost. I think it usually takes like 10 or 15 minutes to process once I end the live, and you'll be able to catch it that way. And then also we'll post it over on our website. And if you want to be notified when it goes up on our website, if you subscribe to our email list, we'll shoot you an email and let you know what's up. Kelly asked, can you cover the difference between a Facebook post boost and a paid Facebook ad? I can. I have to think about the best way to explain this in a way that's going to actually make it clear. So when you post to a business profile or a page, you have the option of boosting a post. What Facebook claims boosting a post does is it increases the number of people that see that post. So it will let you pay them money to show more people that post. That is usually different from an ad. In ad, you usually set up a specific target audience that you want to expose the ad to. So rather than just kind of Facebook showing it to who they decide they want to show it to, you have the option of setting, some geographic information, some target audience information. I don't offer Facebook advertising as a service. It's not a thing I specialize in. But people who do can get really in the weeds with target audiences and do a really good job of kind of parsing for you um, how you can essentially get your business before the people who are most likely to buy from you. And that's going to be really, really valuable from an ad perspective. Almost all of the Facebook advertising people that I know do not recommend boosting posts. They recommend running ads, that those are different things, and that you want to run ads, not boost posts. Most people choose to boost posts because Facebook makes that easy and they make ads a little more difficult. But in my experience, I have not seen boosted posts get the same results that ads do. Usually, ads get a better result. Let's see, what else do we have here in the comments? So Brian tagged Maggie and Lucy said, love Profit First. I love Profit First too. I think it's an excellent resource for people who just want to kind of wrap their head around how business stuff works, how their numbers work, how their finances work. Susan shared that Facebook boost posts and ads. I did a boost and had specified local places, but when I looked at the results, they were all international. I had posted in the middle of the night, wondering how to make that work. Yeah, so I wouldn't recommend boosting posts. I would recommend running ads. I think it's better for that. Carmen says, can you or someone in the group help with running ads for pay, of course? Carmen, if you reach out to me, I can probably recommend somebody. I can almost certainly recommend somebody. I'll have to do a little bit of digging to figure out who I'd want to recommend, but I can almost certainly recommend somebody if you want to drop me an email. Or if you want to do it yourself, there are a number of like low cost and free courses to learn how to do it. Just depending on, again, time or money, which you'd rather invest. Let me see if we've got any other things coming in. It's fun because Facebook doesn't actually show me in real time, which you guys are commenting. I have to refresh things to actually get things to show up. So it's supposed to show me on my little live screen, and it doesn't work that way. I wish it did. All right. Let's see if we've got anything else here. Carmen, if the ads are a thing that people are really interested in learning more about, like I can probably get somebody to come to a presentation. Let me make a note about that and see if we can get somebody who might be willing to come do a Facebook ads presentation in the Facebook group. Because I have a feeling that would be beneficial for them as well as for you guys. All right. Don't see a ton of additional questions. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like me to chat about? I will say I think the biggest thing that dog trainers can do these days, I think social media is really hard for dog trainers unless you want to invest a lot of time and effort into it. I think people think they have to do it. And so they try to do it and they kind of do it, half whatever, and don't put in the effort it would take to get real results, but they spend a lot of time on it. And then they end up really frustrated because it's not getting the results. I really think for most dog trainers these days, yes, you should be posting to your Facebook stuff occasionally, but just enough so that if somebody comes across you on social media, it's clear that your business is still in business and that you're still doing stuff with customers. I wouldn't focus on Facebook or Instagram or any of those as your primary marketing tool unless you're really interested in being a content creator. I would look at things like SEO, things like your Google business profile, things like maybe doing some ads if you have the money to do that. Participating in Facebook groups, I really think is much more valuable than just posting to a business profile. Things like that are all going to be super valuable. Excuse me. It may even be worth considering whether you want to run your own Facebook group for dog owners in your area. Creating content from an SEO perspective, like, best dog parks in city state, best places to hike with your dog locally, best restaurants to go to with your dog. Like all of those things that tag other local businesses have location specific references included in them. All of that gives Google a lot of information about where your business is located. And when people do a search for dog friendly restaurant near me, it encourages the likelihood that some of your content may come up in the search results. And I think that that type of content is underrated from a dog trainer's perspective. And there are things you probably know or could resource, kind of chat with some friends to come up with a list of pretty easily. And maybe even do a little more featured stuff. I mean, I think a lot of dog trainers could benefit from doing like a 1 day a week. They go out and they train, at a local restaurant with one of their daycare, if you do day training, one of your day training dogs or one of your own dogs. Catch a meal out, lunch once a week, do a little review of the business on your website. You know, I think all of that is valuable. And mention to the business that you're doing it. Maybe they share it on their social media. That gets you in front of their followers and their people, right? All of those are opportunities for marketing that kind of come from, maybe an hour or two of time a week. So there are things like that that I think you could do that I would recommend over just trying to create, become a content creator if you don't really want to be a content creator. Um, Google Business Profiles, I think, are the least paid attention to and should be the most paid attention to. They really are how Google decides whether or not your business comes up in the map pack or those first couple search results when somebody does a dog trainer near me search. Um, they really, the things that they're looking for there, the number of reviews, the number of citations. So citations is going to be like the number of places your business is listed online, other than your website. Uh, they're going to look at how filled out your profile is, how regularly you're posting, and kind of what your service area is. So all of those are things that I would prioritize if you can. Susan said, AKA trainer events at local restaurants next to a supply store. That sounds like a great option. Um, I would be a little cautious if you have to spend a lot of money to participate in an event. I have found that most trainers find, if you're spending $300 or $500 to participate in an event, you probably will not recoup those costs. Uh, I won't say never because I'm sure there's somebody out there who does it and makes it work for them. But I think that for most trainers, if you have to invest a lot of money to do that, it's probably not going to help a whole lot. That said, I think that doing reviews of other local businesses on your website, chatting with other local businesses to do things that are in partnership or that are low cost or free are absolutely worth it. So again, there's a time versus money question there, right? I think everybody kind of has to evaluate their own business and their own schedule and decide those things. Do you have more time? Do you have more money? And make some of your marketing decisions based on where that scale lands for you. The budgeting of it is tricky, both in terms of time and in terms of money, Carmen. I agree. All right. It's saying I have 9 comments, but it's showing me 4. I hope I got everybody. If I missed your comment, um, then I will absolutely, I'm going to come back in after I end the live and try and type out answers to everybody's questions too. So you guys have those to reference because I think that's useful for everybody. And I will try and stick in the comments that link to the vet lunch and learn thing that Liz did to do her vet networking because I think that presentation was excellent. And I will let me know if there are any other resources. I do have some other resources on like Google Business Profiles and stuff. If you guys think that would be helpful, let me know in the comments and I'll add those there too. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for joining me for what was maybe your lunch break today. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their Thursday. Yeah, if there's other things like this that we can do for you here in the group, we'd love to hear about it because we'd love to be doing some more high value stuff for you guys. All right, take care, everyone, and I will be around if anybody does want to leave more questions in the comments.